We're jumping into the top 20 most controversial things in anime from Watch Mojo. I hope y'all enjoy the video. I'm trying to pad my time, so let's get into it.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the most infamous anime scenes that sparked full-on scandals.
Neo Genesis.
Number 20, The End of Eren Yeager, Attack on Titan. After 10 years, almost 100 episodes, and more jaw-dropping moments than we could count, the ending of Attack on Titan was never going to please everyone.
Facts.
Especially since it committed to killing off Eren Yeager himself. The vengeful Eldian spent the show's final season as a total renegade, so some vocal fans weren't happy to see him die as a crying kid, mourning the life he could have had with Mikasa.
It is what it is, though.
In a fantastic final episode, but clearly a subset.
It was always a dark anime. I don't get it.
Go out on the top of his game. Either way, no one's forgetting this finale anytime soon. Number 19, Lovers Quarrel. Oremo.
Don't know this
Like
one.
most romance anime protagonists, Kyosuke has girls practically banging down his door. But he doesn't want any of them. He only has eyes for his little sister, Kirino. Unfortunately,
Why?
she has eyes for him too. Look, it's one thing to hint at an unsavory relationship, and another entirely to show a brother and sister pretending to get married. As you can imagine, it didn't take long for the masses to condemn Oremo for its gross central pairing.
I can't blame him.
View defending Kyosuke and Kirino's romance, which only stirred up even more controversy. Given that the show is a very acquired taste, it's not even worth arguing about anymore. Plus,
Next one,
Kuronako
please.
was obviously best girl. Number 18, Episode 4, Gurren Lagann. Simon's time
yeah.
inside the titular mech may be considered a modern classic these days, but not every one of its episodes was as warmly received at the time. Looking at you, Episode 4.
See,
Helmed by a guest
what happened
director,
happened.
the divisive installment used a very eclectic art style that left many wanting. Fans were extremely critical and made sure Gurren Lagann's production company, Gainax, knew it. In response, Gainax's co-founder made some not-so-professional comments comparing fan criticism to his behind. That only fueled the fire, and eventually he was forced to resign altogether. After all, the
don't piss off anime
it's
fans,
wonder
y'all.
Gurren Lagann
They'll
is
take
still
your
as
they'll take your
beloved as it
job.
is. Number 17, What's in the Dish? The Pet Girl of Sakurazo. When it comes to anime, cooking food for a sick friend seems as innocent as you can get. But somehow, this show found itself in hot water anyway. Viewers noticed that Jin prepared Korean food for his pal instead of the Japanese dish he makes in the source material. Through some wild
People
leaps in
cared
logic,
about that?
fans began arguing the show was an offensive marketing ploy for Korean grub. Despite assurances from the production company, things only got worse when a future episode edited out the Japanese national anthem.
Alright, that might have went a little bit too far.
Whether intentional or not, the Pet Girl of Sakurazo is now remembered more for its scandals than its plot. Number 16, Impersonation Evasion, Gintama. Even a show as funny as Gintama can go too far sometimes. In the name of a good joke, they released an episode in 2011 featuring some biting critiques for a well-regarded Japanese politician.
I might actually have to look at this show.
It's being parodied, though.
I never looked at
The word
Gintama.
defamation started getting thrown around a lot, and before things got messy, the episode was yanked from airwaves and heavily censored. You can still watch it on streaming sites to this day, but just be prepared for a lot of bleeps and black bars. Honestly, given Gintama's subject matter, it's surprising stuff like this doesn't happen more often.
Facts. I heard this show is hella funny. I just never got into it.
Karen's Pearly Whites, Nisei Monogatari. There's a lot of feelings that come to mind when watching a scene like this. The first, of course, being plain and simple discomfort.
そんなことは言わない。磨けなんて言わない。磨くのは僕だ。
While the Monogatari franchise is far from kid-friendly, Koyomi's up-close and personal look into Karen's mouth was something else. The question is, in what direction? Fans spent weeks debating the scene's creative merits. Is it plain and simple fan service? An animation flex? Or is it just meant to make you squirm? No one knew for sure, but boy did everyone have an opinion. Who knew dental hygiene could cause such a fuss?
なんでお兄ちゃんが歯磨いたりしてあげながらカレンちゃんを慈愛顔でベッドに押し倒してるの？
Number 14, The Cabbages, Crescent Love. You heard that
Crescent
right.
Love?
In this charming slice of life, there's no graphic violence, uncomfortable romances, or taboo themes. Nope, it
So
got
what's
an
the issue?
attention because it showed someone cutting a cabbage. Or rather, something that's supposed to be a cabbage. The animation left a lot to be desired, leaving most viewers in a state of shock, laughter, and amused bafflement.
料理勝負ですもの。料理は私がしないと。
The production got
Really?
wind of the backlash and
This-
fixed the visual for the DVD release, but it was too late. By then, the perfectly smooth vegetable was already a widespread internet meme. There is no outrunning a cabbage like this.
So, a cabbage.
Number 13, Kaneki's Love Life, Tokyo Ghoul. The power of shipping knows no bounds. Even though
Kaneki got done dirty.
chemistry with best
All of
friend
Tokyo
Toga,
Ghoul got
a
done
certain
dirty.
section of the
Go read the
fanbase
manga,
wanted
y'all.
him to get in bed with his best friend Hide. But all those hopes went up in flames when Kaneki and Toga finally consummated their relationship.
バカみたいだ。
嬉しかった私はもっとバカみたい。
To say fans weren't happy would be an understatement. Some went as far as calling Tokyo Ghoul homophobic and even sent the author death threats. While we can
Really?
appreciate wanting more diverse
Y'all send death
relationships in
threats.
anime, this glorified hate
Some of y'all
parade
need to go get
went
laid.
to the extreme. The unwarranted reaction is a black mark on the Tokyo Ghoul fan base that won't be going away anytime soon.
私子供できた。
Number 12, not so super animation, Dragon Ball Super. You
Look,
take a property as
I don't care what
beloved
y'all
as
say, Dragon Ball Super was
give it the
alright.
time and care it deserves. But in only 5 episodes, the hotly anticipated Super turned fan excitement into internet melting outrage.
ちょっとまたんねえな。
だから言ったんだ。さっさとやめるんだ。
The show's rushed
Beer's as
production
tired as
schedule
me.
meant that animators couldn't keep up with the battle-heavy storylines. So even though episode 5 was supposed to be Super's first big fight, it ended up looking like a duel between stick figures.
スーパーサイヤ人3の力見せてやる。
I don't think people know how much animation really costs.
The production company gave a few ham-fisted excuses, but in the end, Super went down as a cautionary tale amongst fans. On the bright side, the show did eventually get its act together, but the horrors of episode 5 still haunt everyone's nightmares. Number 11, Makoto's Murder and Nice Boat, School Days. In a
Haven't
scene
watched
that
School
still
Days
drops
either.
jaws to this day, the shocking slice of life ends with some literal slices taken out of its leading man, Makoto.
世界。
But that's not the most notable part of its finale. A day before the episode was supposed to air, a real-life tragedy in Kyoto forced the Japanese network to cancel its broadcast. Instead, they aired a scenery shot with the subtitles, "Nice Boat," The internet exploded, frustration turning into confusion, turning into absolute hilarity. By the time School Day's final episode aired, Nice Boat had become the anime meme of the year.
Nice
Never feel
boat.
like Makoto,
Really?
his death got upstaged by a bloody boat.
誠くんの彼女は私なんですから。
Number 10, too close for comfort. Oshinoko. While it may seem bubbly on the surface,
I need to
this
get
show
into
is
this one
actually all
also.
about exposing the dark underbelly of the rich and famous. But in its 6th episode, Oshinoko blended fact and fiction a bit too well. The plotline follows Akane, an actress facing so much online harassment, she eventually tries to end it all.
やっぱりと思った。
But that's really how it is, though.
許してもらえると思った。
The specifics of her torments echo the situation of real-life pro wrestler Hana Kimura. Unfortunately, while Akane survived her circumstances, Kimura didn't. Later, the wrestler's mother denounced Oshinoko for using her daughter's death as a quote-unquote source material. Her comments struck a chord with a lot agreeing Oshinoko should be more sensitive with its real life going forward.
But
while others argued that
it's
the
hard to be
manga was
sensitive
written
about
much
real
earlier.
life.
俺は敵じゃない。頼むから
Oh yeah, I might put that in my
Number
queue.
9, false allegations. The rising of the Shield hero.
And everybody who are mad about it is weak. I love the rising of the Shield
You
Hero.
only get one chance at a first impression, and for some, Shield Hero blew it. While its fresh spin on the isekai genre drew rave reviews, others were quick to point out some of its more problematic elements. Namely, that its first episode depicts slavery and false misconduct allegations.
お前騙したな。
My man was framed by that.
Viewers who stuck around found that Shield Hero handled its tough subject matter with finesse and maturity, but unfortunately, several of its protesters had already written the show off. It's a real shame. If they'd just given Naofumi one more chance, they'd have seen that the first season, and only the first season, of the Rising of the Shield Hero is isekai at its very best.
Season 1 is great. Season 2, meh. Season 3, great.
In this malign storyline, Haruhi and her friends are stuck in a time loop, repeating the same summer vacation. Even though the second episode reanimated every scene, it rehashed the exact same events as the first. The third episode repeated the trend again, so did the fourth, the fifth, and so on, eventually wasting over half the season with the same identical plot points.
The fuck?
久しぶりのはずなのに。
So it's the same episode basically 6
Haruhi
times?
fans went into a tailspin, and we can't even blame them. The fan base's meltdown reached such a
What a
boiling
waste
point,
of money.
The show's former director had to issue an apology, but sorry wasn't enough to stop the Endless Eight from becoming one of the most hated arcs in anime history.
つまりこういうことです。我々は同じ時間を延々とループしているのですよ。
Number 7, Dio and the Quran. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. As if being a thorn in the
This looks like
side
an
of the
old
Joestar
JoJo to
family
me.
isn't bad enough, Dio Brando decided to take on an entire religion too. During the 90s OVA adaptation of the series, the vampiric villain reads excerpts from something that looks an awful lot like the Quran.
Just who do you think you are anyway? Just
Let the man read his Quran. What's wrong with that?
yourself wide open.
Obviously, Muslims weren't thrilled to see such flippant use of their sacred text, especially by a vampire who's talking about murder. In response, the manga's English release went on hiatus, and the OVAs were pulled from storefronts.
I just don't get it.
Nowadays, there's a whole new version of JoJo's to fall in love with, and this one hasn't offended any religious groups yet.
Yet.
Number 6, Meet the Goblins, Goblin Slayer. If you turned on this anime expecting a light-hearted action fantasy, you had another
Let us
thing
explain,
coming.
as
In
Goblin
the very
Slayer
first
fans.
scene of the very first episode, a group of unlucky adventurers get cornered by goblins, and it crosses more than a few lines.
Did it? Them goblins were Ruthless.
Let's just say that some of these party members got treated to a fate worse than death. Almost immediately after it aired, Goblin Slayer was accused of using extreme violence for shock value. And even worse, doing so...
Now our generation's just soft. And it can't handle tougher subjects.
For what it's worth, the scandal did get a lot of eyes on the show, but something tells us most of those viewers didn't hang around for episode 2. Number 5, Nina and her table.
I'm about to say
Yes,
Nina
the witch
from
of the rebellion.
Full of Metal.
Love is love, but there's a time and a place for everything. This was most definitely not the time for Nina. She's caught red-handed in a dark room examining a photo of her beloved.
ニーナさんですか？気分が悪いようなら。なんでもない。なんでもないの。
Given Nina's position, it's heavily implied that she got it on with the corner of a table. Sorry, we meant table-kun, as some cheeky fans started calling it. Jokes aside, the scene's almost unnecessary content drummed up its fair share of drama.
I forgot
This
all
kind
about
of
that.
weird fan-servicey scene feels incredibly out of place in a tense thriller like Code Geass. And yet, that's part of the reason Nina and Table-kun remain the show's most infamous ship to this very day.
必要なん
Bruh, I feel so old. I forgot about
Number
this
4,
shit.
taboo content. Sword Art Online. It's almost ironic that an episode titled Taboo Index has a scene that literally had to be censored. To put it as vaguely as possible, Yujiro almost had to watch as his comrades suffer the worst punishment imaginable.
What is this? I didn't see this in Sword Art Online. Matter of fact, I never seen this dude in Sword Art
The
Online.
moment went through heavy edits before it could even hit streaming sites, let alone public broadcast. But clever cutting or not, the reality of the girl's situation isn't any easier to stomach. In the face of ever-mounting backlash, Sword Art Online's original author assured fans that he'd moved away from using violence as a subplot. If only he'd come to that conclusion a few years sooner. Number 3, the real kind of revenge. Redo of Healer. This show is like a...
We don't talk about
contentious
Redo
bag
of the Healer.
chips. You can't just
We don't
pick
talk
one.
about Redo
After
of the
all,
Healer.
the entire premise is basically a walking PR disaster.
Facts!
Without getting too deep into the nasty details, Redo of Healer is about the disgraced wizard Kiaru who goes back in time to get revenge on those who wronged him. And boy, does he get creative. Kiaru's vengeance is upfront, gratuitous, and so vile.
I understand where he's
talk
coming
about it
from.
on YouTube, or hell, show any footage for that matter. Whatever you're thinking of, it's probably worse.
I understand
You can't even
completely
watch
where he's
Redo
coming
of
from.
Healer in some countries, and honestly, that might be for the best. Number 2, the Porygon episode. Pokemon. Gotta catch 'em all, unless it's Porygon.
Facts.
ここはどこなんだ？
All these had dubs. Y'all could use dubs.
During the monster's debut episode of the anime, Pikachu went into the internet and delivered a shock that the industry is still reeling from. The repetitive flashing lights triggered a series of epileptic reactions across Japan, sending more than 600 viewers to the hospital. Pokemon immediately pulled
Damn.
the episode down and went on a 4-month hiatus to address the issue.
さようなら。
よし、今のうちに。
By the time they
Pikachu
returned to
actually
their
put people in the
regularly
hospital?
scheduled broadcast, Japanese networks had written up entirely new guidelines on light effects in anime. All these years later, shows are still being held to those standards. As for Porygon himself, he's been blacklisted from the anime ever since.
So that's why we never
Be
seen.
sure to subscribe
So
to
that's
our
why we
channel
never
and ring
seen
the bell to get
Porygon in the
notified
anime
about our
ever
latest
since
videos.
this.
You have the option to be notified for occasional videos.
Damn.
All of them. If you're on your phone, make sure to go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1, congratulations! Neon Genesis Evangelion.
僕はここにいたい。僕はここにいてもいいんだ。
The characters may be congratulating Shinji, but for some there's nothing to be happy about here. especially if you're a hardcore theorist. Ever since the series ended with this ambiguous scene, the
Facts.
Evangelion fandom has been stuck in a complete controversy of interpretation. Did Shinji reject instrumentality? Or are they congratulating him because he joined their universal consciousness? Or is this all just because they ran out of
It was
budget?
always
From
confusing.
now on. After all, the previews did show footage that would later be used in the end of Evangelion movie. Either way, thematic or not, many were still peeved about this anticlimactic ending. But of course, some argue that's the whole point.
おめでとう
There was really no way for them to win. Really, if you really think about it.
おめでとう
Dad's still trash.
Things have, of course, become a lot more clear, and people don't care as much now that Thrice Upon a Time has wonderfully wrapped up the series. But either way, back then, people were livid. What anime
Pissed.
scandal surprised you the most? Let us know in those comments below.
Let me know in your comments below if y'all want to see more top 10 to top 20 videos. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm out.